Hey everyone, this is Michael and today we'll be talking about ways of running an effective team training. By effective, I basically mean a training that will be well organized, interesting for players, and if put to use will actually improve your team's overall in-game performance. Point number one, preparation. First and most important element of efficient training is good preparation, or in other words, organization. Back in the days when I got back to CS after 3 years break, I started searching for a team. So I tried a couple of teams and in every one of them there was a huge problem with organization that was really frustrating for everyone. Funny thing was that at the same time nobody was willing to introduce some rules on how to deal with the problem. We were losing at least half an hour a day on some random running and shooting on the map, cigarette or toilet breaks, some last-minute food making, phone calls, and all other AFK things. So basically, even though everyone was ready on TeamSpeak on let's say 5 p.m., we were starting our training around 5:30 or even quarter to 6. With every minute of waiting for somebody and another, guys, I'll be right back 2 minutes, we were getting more and more irritated, tired, and unwilling to participate in the training. If you want to avoid such situation, you have to practice a so-called 6P rule, which says proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. In other words, by failing to plan, you're planning to fail. I can almost guarantee to you that each minute spent on preparation can save you up to 10 minutes of work, or rather in this case, wasted time. Now, what I mean by preparation? Well, basically one of the team members, preferably an in-game leader, should have a written plan that he communicates to everyone before the training, so that everyone come to the training with a right mindset and knows what to expect. By the way, I will show you an example of a training schedule I used in a minute. The best time to prepare a short plan for the next classes is right after you've finished training for today. You will still remember what went smoothly and which elements of a certain tactic still require some improvement. So ask everyone to stay these extra 5 minutes longer and collect their feedback. It's amazing how much valuable information you can gather during these couple of minutes. At the same time, most of the teams have a habit of just disappearing after the training. Suddenly, some people are playing matchmaking with their friends, some other game, or just go offline on Steam. Point number 2. Create a playbook. I remember we used to write down each tactic with the bullet points and actually we had our own playbook. A great idea would be to make it on Google Docs so that it can be constantly updated and everyone would have an easy access to it. Besides that, everybody had to at least have his own job in the particular tactic wrote down in details either on paper or in some Word file. This would allow everyone to quickly remind themselves all the plays before some important matches when there is very little time for that kind of stuff. So when you are already well prepared, you can start your training with a short revision of what you were doing previously. It is a great way to memorize the tactics so that during the match you will have all the timings and smokes in your head. For example, if on the previous trainings you were practicing T-side tactics on the Inferno, get through all the tactics once but very quickly. In-game leader just calls the strat name during freeze time and everyone should know what is their role and what should they buy without hesitation. Point number 3. Have a training schedule. Learn what kind of training fits your team best. For example, most of the teams prefer just to play versus other teams rather than practice some tactics on an empty server. If that's the case with your team, make sure that the part which you don't like the most is well prepared so that you can go through it as smoothly as possible. It should allow players to maintain their focus and attention for a longer period of time. Remember that the faster you get through it, the faster you will be able to move to more enjoyable stuff. Below, see the 6 hours training schedule I have been using with my previous teams. Point number 4. Practice one map per week. A lot of newly created teams wanna conquer the scene basing mainly on their motivation and ambitions. It doesn't work this way. Usually such teams, after an initial period of excitement and too big expectations toward themselves, start to fall apart when something is not going their way. is because lack of the base, or the roots if you want to call it. If a team doesn't have a solid foundations, it will not pass the time test. In my opinion, one of such foundations is good tactical preparation. Gather with your team and decide which maps you want to play and which you prefer not to. You can even make a voting. Next, start practicing one of the chosen maps for at least 1 week. Decide how many tactics you need on each side, how many pistol rounds, how many eco round tactics, and so on and so forth. Look for opponents that are willing to play the map you want to practice and do not accept any other options. Basically, make one map from A to Z before you move to the next one. After 1 week, you take another map, and after a month, you'll have 4 well-prepared maps you can play interchangeably. Of course, once you start working on the second and the third map, don't forget to make a brief reminding session every couple of days. Let's say maximum 20 minutes per map. Just make a quick dry run of each strat and that's it. Point number 5. Avoid practicing nades during the training. Learning new nades, flashes, smokes or molotovs should be a homework of each player. It is a great time waster when you do it with 5 people on one server, so try to avoid it at all costs. If you ever experienced it before, you probably know what I'm talking about. There are hundreds of nade tutorials on YouTube on every map, so this content is easily accessible for everybody. Also, everyone from the team should not only know how to perform his own smoke, but actually he should be able to properly throw every single nade from each tactic. I can tell you from my own experience that it is a great comfort for an in-game leader when he can count on each player in this aspect. This is very important, especially in the situations where during the match you are one man down and still decide to pull off some strat which requires the player who is currently dead. Other players must be able to get in such person's shoes and throw his smokes, flash or molotov without much trouble. So to summarize all the points we just went through. Point number 1, preparation and organization. Point number 2, create your own playbook. Point number 3, have a training schedule. Point number 4, work on one map per week. And point number 5, avoid practicing nades during training sessions. These are basically my best advices on how to run an effective CSGO training. First 4 of them I have been practicing with the teams I led in the past, whereas the 5th point is a rule I wish we followed, as from current perspective I see how much precious time we could save. At the beginning it might be difficult to implement all of the rules at once. If this will be the case with your team, try to start with just one, and once you feel comfortable with it, pick another one and practice it until you become comfortable with it as well. Then pick the third one, and so on and so on. I really hope that you found some value in this video and don't feel like you just wasted a couple of minutes of your life. If you did and think some other people might learn something from it, share with them. As Jim Rohn, one of my favorite speakers, used to say, when somebody shares, everybody wins. I leave you with that thought. See you soon.